What's up everyone, Matt Red Fox here from The Drunken Gamers, and today we're going to break down some of what we learned from recent leaks and reports for the future of Resident Evil. So, following the massive success of Resident Evil 2's remake, of course we're looking forward to seeing Resident Evil 3. Who else would want to see that beautiful, beautiful bald bitch Nemesis chasing us around the same way the Michael Jackson-inspired Mr. X did throughout the course of the game? As you can see on screen, they handled it very well. Some of the character redesigns came through phenomenally. Very grotesque game. I absolutely love it. If you haven't checked it out yet, be sure to check out our playthrough on our page. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more content regarding that. So, let's dive into this. Resident Evil 8. One of two games that are set to be in production by Capcom using the Resident Evil license. With Resident Evil 8, no, Nemesis, we're getting to you. You're number 2. We'll be back. Now, with Resident Evil 8, a lot of people are wondering what point of view we're going to go with. Are we going to stick with the third person, narrow hallways, tight corners, claustrophobic version, or are we going to take another dive back into first-person survival horror? Me, personally, I actually enjoyed Resident Evil 7. I thought it was great. You have the Baker family chasing you around most of the game, especially Jack, who is by far the fastest, strongest old person I've ever seen in my life. That is until he decides to be a hentai tentacle monster. But aside from that, the only issue that I did have with Resident Evil 7 was the lack of variety of enemies. For example, you did get to see the Molted a lot, but they were about the only ones. Until that terrifying clown came. But it's a shame you didn't actually get to fight him. You do see what happens with him in the DLC. It needs more. We don't need you, Nemesis. You're the next game. He's relentless. Now, for Resident Evil 8, it is said that they are going to use a lot of the original ideas that they had set in place for Resident Evil 3.5, which was a canceled Resident Evil game from a few years back. They changed it up because they said it was a little bit too psychologically horror-inducing, which I think would have been great. They did a little bit of a bulkier design on Leon, but it looked good on my man. At least he's not punching boulders, he's trying to punch ghosts. And speaking of ghosts, the character that they had for this, which was their version of Nemesis, would be the Hookman. He was more of a ghost kind of figure. Chase you around. You can see some of the footage on YouTube. Some of the shots you see on screen are very out of focus due to the dated footage that was available at the time. But the Hookman should be making a return. Namely, you'll be able to see him a lot better here. With that being said, it's also rumored that it will be taking place on an abandoned island. So we could see something similar to Code Veronica X, bring back Nosferatu. Another interesting thing that I would love to see them do with Resident Evil 8 would to actually bring back the hallucinations. According to what the game was rumored to be on Resident Evil 3.5, your character would hallucinate depending on how terrified he was. Similar to kind of how PT and some of the Silent Hill games had played before, which would be absolutely terrifying. Another thing it would definitely do is make sure that everyone's playthrough is slightly different from one another. For example, similar to how Resident Evil 2 is big with exploration, and many of the past games are, everyone on Drunken Gamers who has played Resident Evil 2 have all went through it in a different fashion, a different style. For example, our playthrough on Twitch and our YouTube page. For example, we waited until about midway through to actually put the fire out and fuck with Mr. X because he is a smooth criminal and we did not want him chasing us around. Whereas other players on our channel decided they were just going to go fuck with him from the beginning. They just like getting chased around by a big bald bitch. Now, speaking of getting chased around tight hallways, empty corridors, and the police station, let's move on to the star of our next game, Nemesis. Welcome back, buddy. Now so, Resident Evil 3, the remake that we've all longed for quite some time. Yes, we did enjoy the first-person scares of 7 and the beautiful remake of Part 2, but it's not quite the same without our main man, Nemi. So, for Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, there's a lot of things that we're really looking forward to, namely the art style and the direction in which they're going to take it. For example, there's a lot of Resident Evil 2 that you can bring forward into Resident Evil 3, considering that they do take place very similar in the timeline, but most importantly, we want to see how they're going to make Jill look. There was not much leaked on Resident Evil 3 RE3 Nemesis, unfortunately, but we all knew it was coming due to the recent success of Resident Evil 2. So for now, let's just celebrate the fact that we got a beautiful game in the Resident Evil 2 remake. We have RE3 Nemesis remake right on the horizon, followed by Resident Evil 8, if all the leaks are correct. We'll keep following this story and update you guys as much as we know, as fast as we can. Be sure to check our page. We have another video coming out with our predictions for Resident Evil 8 and Resident Evil 3. Without further ado, I am at Red Fox, joined by our friend Nemesis. Be sure to like, share, subscribe. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.